Saul Marquez here with the Outcomes Rocket, and today I have the privilege of being with Rich and Bob from Bridging Medical, an extraordinary idea for osteosynthesis. Here at the MedTech Innovator Conference, they just got out of their pitch. It went well, and I'm glad I was able to catch them here to hear more about them and about what they're up to. So why don't you gentlemen give us a little bit of your bio and about what the company is doing.
Yeah, Rich Belnap. I'm the Vice President of Sales and Marketing with Bridging Medical. I've been with Bob for a long time, and we've been developing this together, and we're actually really excited about the potential for what our devices can actually do in the orthopedic trauma market. Prior to this, I've been in sales and marketing in the pharma and device markets, and done really well in both. And I'm just excited to be hanging out with Bob with Bridging Medical.
Nice to meet you, Rich.
My name is Bob Patty. I'm President and CEO of Bridging Medical. And it's been my privilege to gather together a very broad-based and expert group of engineers and doctors and business people like Rich that have enabled us to develop a system of orthopedic hardware that does lots of things that existing hardware don't do, and we'll talk about that as we go through it. My background is I have a PhD in civil engineering, and many years ago, several years ago anyway, my son was in podiatric medical school. My son complained about the professor said that every time they put in orthopedic hardware, within a few hours to a few days, the hardware is loose. And his question was, can you fix that? Well, I'm a structural engineer, and yes, and so I began to ask questions, and we involved the professor, and we involved orthopedic surgeons, and a host of teams. My expertise is in combining expertise on large, diverse, multidisciplined engineering teams to define and develop solutions for problems. And so we applied that to this problem, and we think we have some very nice solutions.
Well, Bob and Rich, definitely great to learn about your backgrounds. Tell us a little bit more about the company and how you guys are adding value to the ecosystem. What makes you guys different?
Well, what makes us different is that we are actually pursuing the current standard therapy right now. For the past 90 years, surgeons, about 6 million people per year break their bones so severely that they need to have it surgically repaired. Surgeons have been doing roughly the same thing for the past 90 years, little tweaks and improvements here and there, but they go in and they basically try and pin or screw or plate those bones together. And the problem is that after a little while, the ends of the bones end up dying. There's cells at the end of the bones that end up dying, becoming necrotic. The body reabsorbs them, and then there's a gap created. So by putting this hardware in, you basically promote that gap because the bones aren't going to move. You basically, made sure the bones won't move. With the Bridging Medical hardware, we actually compress the bones together. And even during the resorption of the dead cells, those bones stay together. So what happens is we promote what we call primary healing. Currently, bones only can heal through secondary healing. So it's got to go through a process of about 2 to 5 months of forming a callus, a soft and a hard callus, and then the remodeling finally starts happening. With our devices, because we're into primary healing, the remodeling starts pretty quickly. So we're shaving time off of the healing process. We're also minimizing, hopefully eliminating a lot of the complications. Complications such as atrophy, such as opioid addiction that comes, this way. Certainly in a lot of folks, since you're off your, since you have to convalesce for, 4 to 12 weeks, you develop those atrophies, your tendons and ligaments start to shorten. You lose a little bit of range of motion in the joints, right? And there's blood clot formation, which can happen to anyone, but it's especially deadly in the elderly. We are going to take this into the veterinary space, and so now we hope to save horses, where right now when a horse breaks its leg, it's going to get euthanized. Now we hope that our device will even save horses. So these complications are we've just accepted them as a standard. That's just the way it is. With Bridging Medical, we hope that that's never the way it is again.
Fascinating to hear what makes you guys different. Now, at the beginning, Bob, you started mentioning a little bit about what inspires the work, but I'd like to dig a little deeper into that and hear more about it.
Okay, so what happens when a bone is fractured is that the bone dies at the surface of the fracture. Or, frankly, any time you disturb that to install hardware into the bone, whether it's a screw or a plate, if you disturb that surface, you disturb the blood flow to the surface, and the bone will die. Underneath a plate, underneath a screw head, on the screw shank and threads, the bone will die, as well as in the fracture zone. So all of those necrotic areas, in order for the bone to heal, have to be removed for the body to regrow the bone, okay? And so when that occurs, the hardware loosens up. Once it's loose, you have to stay off of the fracture zone. You can't do load bearing, weight bearing. You can't exercise for a period of 4 to 12 weeks. And during that process, atrophy sets in. Okay? And it takes longer to heal because instead of going direct to version remodeling from the outset, because our system will hold those fracture zones and close those gaps as they occur and sustain compression in the fracture zone. And it does so with sufficient force that you can actually do weight bearing right off of the operating table. That's the expectation. We have to prove that, but that's the expectation, that a horse will be able to walk and thus not have to be euthanized right off of the operating table. And people will be able to exercise, limited exercise at the beginning, but that will prevent the atrophy from occurring in the people. And we will go directly into primary healing instead of secondary healing, which, as Rich mentioned, will save us somewhere. The estimate is, and again, we have to prove this, about 5 months of time in healing before you get to the point where the body can begin the remodeling, the final healing phase of the bone. And so that whole process and the elimination of the atrophy and the complications associated with that, it can actually be a death sentence to an older person. They may never recover from the concomitant atrophy that occurs during that healing process.
That's fascinating, Bob. It's really kind of shifting, doing a 180 on what we deem acceptable today to what it could be that kind of keeps you guys most inspired. I love it. And so as we think about the opportunity, what are you guys most excited about?
I think we're most excited about the reduction in the complications, the pain reduction. We expect to reduce the frequency of people becoming addicted to pain medications, the opioids. Because when bone is moving, if you move bone around when it's healing, not only does it cease to heal, but it also is very painful. When bone screws are twisting out into this fleshy tissue because they're not tight anymore, or when a horse breaks its bone plates, it goes lame. It can't. That's why they don't do it, because it will break its bone plates. And so, we eliminate the root cause of those problems, which is the hardware loosening in the first place. And so that's what excites us. we can shorten the amount of time it takes to heal, but at the same time we can remove the malunions and the non-unions, hopefully, at least substantially reduce the frequency that those occur and the failure of the implants themselves.
And for me, I was dovetailing off of what Bob said. I've known several friends and family that, had a broken bone fixed, and then they had to go back and get it refixed and refixed and refixed because the hardware just didn't do what it was supposed to do. And you have the malunions and the non-unions and therefore the revisions. And for physicians to have to go back in and fix it, that's for the most part on their dime, and it's their time. That means a lot to them. I'm also excited about lowering or eliminating opioid addiction because of orthopedic trauma that our devices can fix. And I certainly am just excited about, even in the animal world, I have 4 children, but my dog arguably is my favorite child. So, if my dog, that's because I see all my kids the same, right? My dog beats them all. But, this is going to be able to be scaled for dogs. And, when a dog breaks a bone, you fix the bone, the dog still has to convalesce. You still have to kind of carry it around for a while, and you have to tend to it. If you can fix that dog bone even, and the dog can continue running out in the yard and being happy and no pain and things like that while it's healing, there's a lot of people that are going to be happy about that as well.
No, very good, very good. A lot to be excited about. And
we want to emphasize that we're in the research and development mode, and so all of these are expectations of our extensive team of orthopedic surgeons and podiatric surgeons and biomechanical engineers and on and on and on. So, all has to be proven at this point.
yeah, worthy of note. It's a work in progress, nonetheless. A work in progress that has a bright future. And so with that in mind, what call to action would you all give to the viewers and listeners of our interview today? And what would be the best place that they could reach out for more questions?
Okay. The call really is, we're asking in this seed round for about $1.3 million. We've raised about $160,000 of it so far. This is going to go towards proving the concept. Now, the data that we've done, the research that we've done is so promising that we feel like the money will be put to very good use as we repair horse bones and sheep bones and kind of get into that space initially. But it'll also prove our concept. It'll also help us to gather data that we can then take and create and follow through with clinical trials in the human space eventually. So that's what the 1.3 million ask is for. And if you want to find out more, all you need to do is go to www.bridgingmedical.com. We can also be found at www.redcrow.com because they're working with us as well. And so those are the places to go. And then there's opportunities to invest even through those websites. So give us money.
Give us a call. If you've got any concerns, questions, we're happy to, and we've got a lot of patents pending and so forth, so, most of it's protected. If it isn't protected, we won't tell you about it unless you go under NDA, but we're happy to talk to you.
Well, Steve, Bob, thank you both, and wishing you guys the best of luck.
Thanks. Appreciate it.